In place of an altar there is a miserable table. In place of Christ there is bread. And St. Robert Bellarmine noted, quote, "When we enter the temple of heretics, where there is nothing except a chair for preaching and a table for making a meal, we feel ourselves to be entering a profane hall and not the house of God." But just like the new services of the Protestant revolutionaries, the new Mass is celebrated on a table. The 1549 Anglican prayer book was also called, quote, "the Supper of the Lord," and the Holy Communion commonly called the Mass, end quote. This title emphasizes the Protestant belief that the Mass is just a meal, a supper, and not a sacrifice. When Paul VI promulgated the general instruction for the new Mass, it was entitled exactly the same way. It was entitled, quote, "the Lord's Supper or Mass." Martin Luther said, quote, "The Mass is not a sacrifice. Call it benediction, Eucharist, the Lord's table, the Lord's Supper, memory of the Lord, or whatever you like, just so long as you do not dirty it with the name of sacrifice." The 1549 Anglican prayer book removed from the Mass the psalm, "Give judgment for me, O God." Because of its reference to the altar of God, this psalm was also suppressed in the new Mass. The 1549 Anglican prayer book removed from the Mass the prayer which begins, "Take away from us our sins," because it evokes sacrifice. This was also suppressed in the new Mass. The prayer which begins, "We beseech thee, O Lord," refers to relics in the altar stone. This has been suppressed in the new Mass. In the 1549 Anglican prayer book, the introit, Kyrie, Gloria, collect, epistle, gospel, and creed were all retained. They have all been retained in the new Mass. In the 1549 Anglican prayer book, the Lift Up Your Hearts dialogue